All right, welcome back to today's trade journal. As you can see on my Lucid dashboard, we had a small losing day of minus 192 Dalajeros, and then also on this equity curve, you can see that we dipped a bit below. That is because I requested my first payout of $500. That thing has yet still to hit my bank because I go over work market. I don't have a crypto wallet. And then obviously, since I'm in Europe, apparently everything takes a bit longer, but I also requested it then to be withdrawn from my work market profile. So hopefully it'll hit my business account tomorrow. But yeah, otherwise, as you can see, notice the eval. So also I bought one new Lucid eval because this is at the moment the plan to rinse and repeat. So having one funded account, getting a payout, and then just, buy one eval and just like continue to do this. But as I said, that's why you can see like this dip in the equity curve. But long story short, let's jump into the actual charts. I did not take a trade on NQ today, only on YM, and then the levels I had drawn out for today was that I was like very much interested in. Obviously, like I said yesterday, don't want to get into any geopolitical news reportage because I don't know if YouTube will flag me for talking about this stuff, but obviously stuff is happening right now in the world. So you can see after we had the huge gap on Monday, sold off overnight, then fully pushed up into the 49,000s. Then we had once again during the overnight session this crazy sell-off of almost 1,300 points. But at this point, you also have to keep in mind this is just minus 2.7% on the YM. So if you look at the craziest days YM ever had, you will see numbers of like 7, 8, 9, 10. I think on Black Friday or something, it was like the true Black Friday. It was like minus 20 or something on like financial crisis. So 3% for YM at this point is not that crazy. Obviously, this looks quite dire at the first look. But yeah, long story short, we had this huge sell-off overnight. Then the levels I had drawn out was the Friday low. So from the previous week, as you can see, this was the low that was created on Friday. Why was this interesting to me? During the overnight session on Monday, we perfectly retested this level as well. Then once again here on the 1 hour, once again. So I was like, this is, and as you can see actually right now at 9 p.m., I don't know what's the NY time, we just retested this level once again. So this is what I had in mind. Then the weekly open. Today, this was totally uninteresting. As you can see here during this consolidation phase, during the overnight session on Monday, this level was bounced around quite a bit, and then to the downside I had the previous day low. So as you can see during the overnight session on Monday, we had this huge wick on the 1 hour, and I was just interested. I just marked out the low, not the entire thing. It was just too big. But obviously, as you can see, if you check the high of that, or like the open of that candle, pretty much perfect wick fill during the overnight session here as well. And then the red dashed line is the overnight low, and then the overnight high was all the way up here, where also the gap fill was. And then this was the most interesting level, was this 47,700. Because, okay, coming into like thinking about the game plan I had before market open, I was interested into two things. Either we get like we trade above previous day low, have a retest, because technically we like counter trend trading, not taking anything aggressive. I was like, okay, break above, retest, and then looking for a continuation to the upside. Target would have been like weekly open. I would have not expected this thing to like fully rally all the way to the upside. And then the safer play was obviously for me to look for a trend to the downside. And pretty much what happened, I was like, I want to see once again a retest of the previous day low, not coming above. So in the sell scenario, retest here, and then looking for a continuation to the upside, to the downside into this level. Because to be honest, this was quite no man's land. There was like no recent level we could have traded into. So what did I do? I went on to the 4 hour, because the 1 hour would have been like too far back. As you can see, the next time we went into anything remotely here was during December, like second week of December. Why did I choose the 47,700? Okay, if you can see on the right hand side here, this was like 47,900. I think we already traded into this during the overnight session. I was like, Obviously, this was all this consolidation. If I'm like all this part here, right? If I want to look for a sell to the downside, I need to look more at like lower structure, swing points and whatnot. And why did it chose the 47,700? As you can see, this was the first time we touched this here on 1st December. Okay, 700 dip below, perfect retest, came up. This candle technically retested. So this candle right here retested 700 again, broke above. Then you see this 700 level was super important during all of this time in December. So I was like, maybe we get a retest of this, which we also pretty much got perfectly today. Let me just refresh the chart. Almost to the T. So the low was 681. So just by 19 points, we retested this level. So obviously, pat on the shoulder for me for choosing a good level. It still didn't matter because you couldn't get a winning trade, but it is what it is. Let's jump into the 5 minute and then let's go into replay mode. All right, so at this point, obviously during the overnight session, we had this crazy sell-off. Already came above previous day low before, so kind of this for me was a double top, which could not be broken, so we sold off again. That's why I said I wanted to see a retest of the previous day low and then a sell to the downside, which pretty much happened perfectly. So on the second 5 minute candle of the session, so this was the 3:35 or like 9:35 candle, we perfectly tested this level, so barely just the low of this wick. Let me just jump back into the 1 hour once again. Yeah, so this was Friday low, right? So I was like, okay, this was Friday, the lowest point of or Monday low, excuse me. The Monday low where I only draw the bottom of the wick, not this entire thing, because like I'm not sure, we already retested all of this area with this candle at 10 a.m. CET. I don't know which time, wherever you are. So I was like, I'm also not interested in seeing a candle is retesting all of this. I just barely wanted the wick touch and then look to the downside. All right, we had this candle. Obviously, at this point, we had the 5 minute opening range established, which was the low here at roughly 48.20. And then I was looking for any trade or like continuation to the downside. So this is what happened. We finally had a sell-off, right? We bounced this level, sold off, first close below the opening range low. And at this point, I was just waiting for a pullback and then entering on the continuation. We also took out overnight low, so another confirmation or confluence for me to continue to the downside. I know there's going to be loads of different traders. You know, it's for some people it's a liquidity sweep. They're looking like change of market structure, inverted fair value gap. I don't know, yada yada yada. But for me, I just look for continuation. Okay, I don't want to do this whole reversal shenanigans and something. I just trade continuation. All right, so we had the first candle that created a new high on this downtrend, which is then valid for me to look for a sell to the downside. Then we had another candle perfectly retesting the overnight low. So I was like, anytime we make a new low on this chart, I am ready for a trade. And this is pretty much what happened. So I had a limit order somewhere here. I think I was tagged in at the 19. And then in the beginning, I had a stop loss of 80 points because I trade 3 micros on the YM. So this put me perfectly pretty much above the high of this candle, which maybe was not the most ideal stop loss placement, obviously, because we have the 5 minute opening range here. But at this point, I was like, okay, you know, we already had the crazy push to the downside. I wasn't expecting this to go all the way back up, retest this. So I was like, this is fine at this point. And then, yeah, price went, and target was this 47,700, okay, which would have been a 2.75 hour trade for me. Then we had some nice movement to the downside. I was not too worried about like some, you know, some kind of like pullback. Everything was still protected. Obviously, we had like as a structure point, let's say, we had the high of this candle, we had the overnight low. So I was like, as long as you don't close above this, then we are fine. I shouldn't be too worried. Then price went nowhere for a second. I think it went to the downside once more. Yeah, so this is kind of like where my dilemma happened. So I was still in this trade, didn't touch it whatsoever. But we had this candle, all right, the 59 candle that closed not that ideal. So we barely went below the wick of this previous 1 minute candle at 3 or like 950, and then it was just consolidating. Okay, I knew we're gonna have the next 1 hour candles or the 10 a.m. candle, and this is where things got a bit hasty. So this is totally my fault. I shouldn't have touched it. I also told my wife, I'm like, I really need to get better at not touching my trades, because once again, as like also the theme of previous week, I was like, yeah, let me reduce my risk exposure. If I have a losing trade, it's not that big. So what happened? The 10 a.m. candle happened. I don't know why this on TradingView looks different. I mean, I don't know why, but on TradingView this looks different than it was on Tradeovate. Wait a second. I got locked out. Just give me a second. So the 10 a.m. candle opened, right? On Tradeovate, you cannot see it, but it's wicked up way higher than this. It went above the previous day high. And to like reduce my risk exposure, what did I do? I was like, okay, I don't want to see, a big wick into the top here. So I was like, I put my stop loss placement above this candle's high. Okay, I was like, let me reduce my risk by 10 points because like big wolf or something. So it was like the 70s, and then, or I cannot really remember. But yeah, on Tradeovate, this candle wicked way above, took me out, and then we continued the sell-off to the downside, which perfectly hit the 700. Obviously, this trade took quite some time, but here you can see at 423. So basically what also my wife said, just stand up and don't look at the charts, just let this thing play out how you think it would do. So it would have been obviously quite the long trade. In total, this would have been like 35 minutes. For some reason, maybe because of like how the market is moving at the moment, the trades take way longer than usually, because I think normally my average holding time is like 10 minutes, now 35. It's just bonkers to me. But obviously you can see I like to trade momentum technically. So this is definitely not momentum. This is pretty much just bleeding out at this point. But we had to touch, and then obviously, as everybody saw, market recovered like crazy. But if I wouldn't have moved my stop loss right at the 10 a.m. candle, which also kind of like, that candle is most often erratic, which also was confusing to me because we didn't had any news today. But yeah, basically price would have went there. Now we can go into the actual trade. Yeah, so here you can see. One thing I do notice is I definitely got way better at like just, entering trades when they happen. I'm not second guessing too much anymore. So perfectly on the low of this candle, got tagged in, price. Basically I had like $350 in profit, a bit more than 1 hour, but I don't care about that. I really try to focus on getting 2 hour trades because I don't want to have to rely on such a high win rate if I trade 1 hours. And then this was the 10 a.m. candle. This thing just like exploded to the upside for a little bit. Literally took me out. I know a lot of people gonna be like, oh, it's just a liquidity sweep and something. I'm like, yeah, whatever, buddy. But I also had like, this was the low of an overnight session. I was like, yeah, it's so protected. I don't think it will go above. Got slapped by the market, and then it sold off. And yeah, so this puts me at a balance of $560, but then at the same time, obviously, you can see the other eval because I took out a payout. This drawdown is 50,100, so I basically have like 2-3 trades on this funded left, but hopefully these will not be needed, and we can have at least 1 or 2 nice winning trades, which give us a bit more buffer and a bit more easier trading psychology. And then for anyone that's maybe interested, also, even though I didn't take any NQ trades, let's go out of the replay mode. I had similar levels, I believe. I'm not really sure. So for this session, what was interesting, we had a previous week low, which was from here like Tuesday, and that's what I talked about all these previous videos. I think this level is going to be quite important, at least for a while, where we see it's not respected anymore. So this was like from 2 weeks ago on Friday, then Monday, Tuesday, we always traded into this level. Then we opened right here on Monday, and then we had like overnight session, the wicks into here. Obviously, this is quite an important level. We had the weekly open to the downside, previous day low from the overnight session on Monday, and then to the downside, the target here was the previous month low that was looking to trade if we take a trade to the downside. Obviously, it's a bit easier to see on the 5-minute. I'm not going to go into replay mode because I didn't take any trades. Price was just chopping around like crazy. So we technically came above previous day low, but it was just never really any continuation, any trade that I could take. Then we had like a sell-off at 4:15. But to be honest, I really don't try not to trade that late or enter trades. I really try to focus on the first 30 minutes of the session. If the trade then goes beyond that, it's fine, but I don't want to enter a trade this late into the session. Then obviously we bounced the low, the overnight low, different to YM, just barely wicked above it. And then we had this, this was the 24,450 was another previous week low. As you can see, this got retested many times, and then we had a shift in market structure, pushed up into the previous week low, and now we are even coming above it. But obviously not as crazy as YM, which went recovered like insane. How many points is this? 1,000 points. 1,000 points. But yeah, basically we sold off 1,000 points. We make 1,000 points. It's a Wild West market at the moment. Obviously, with the stuff that's happening, anything can happen. I think it's a good time to reduce risk. Trade maybe micros instead of minis, or whatever point you are in the trading journey, because just the size of these candles is definitely different than before. So this was the trade recap for today. Hope you found something useful, and hopefully you had a winning trade. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.